Broadcasting from the Symphony studio in Marietta, Georgia, it's time for the Technology Harmony podcast, brought to you by Symphony Technology Solutions. Tune in every week as we spotlight the very best minds in our industry. Now, here are your hosts.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the 14th episode of the Technology Harmony podcast, brought to you by Symphony Technology Solutions. I'm one of your hosts, Katie Galley, and I am joined today by my co-host, Trey Gaskins. How are you doing, Trey?
I'm doing great, Katie. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. Can you believe it's been 14 weeks? 14 episodes, 14 weeks.
Yeah, it's flying by, but we're having fun.
We are, and we've had 13 amazing guests, and this 14th guest is, of course, no exception. And today, in the Symphony studio with us, we have Building Automation and Technology Manager at Cortland, Duncan Cannon. How are you doing, Duncan?
I'm doing just fine. How are you guys doing today?
Awesome. Thanks so much for stopping by and sharing your story with us today.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So Duncan, just to get to know you and your background a little bit, can you tell us a little bit about your professional journey and how you got the job that you have today?
Sure. Yeah, my journey may be a little bit unique. I was educated as an architect and then spent about a decade designing buildings, did a lot of healthcare and multifamily. After that, I pivoted to a completely different career. I switched over and did network and IT support. I did that all for almost a decade, and then tried to combine the two. And that is where I used my network out there, continue talking to people, said, I have a different kind of skill set. Mm-hmm. How do I apply that and combine these two things? And then that's when I came across Cortland, and they were looking for somebody with my particular skill set. And so I've been there now for about 2.5 years.
Wow. And so initially, what made you want to get into architecture?
Well, it's more for the problem solving. As a kid, it was all about, having a particular set of pieces that you need to put together. I mean, everybody messes around with that. And it was something that I like to do. I call myself a creative problem solver.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I ended up. But I think the skills I learned on the job there, as well as in school, it can be applied pretty much anywhere. It's design thinking. You have a kit of parts. You have a set of rules you got to follow, and you have a result that you're trying to get to.
Right. And so, Duncan, with that unique skill set that you developed leading into your position today with Cortland as Building Automation and Technology Manager, how do you get to use that unique skill set, and what exactly do you do in that role with Cortland?
Well, in that role, I basically work on implementing and creating strategy for all the community technology we have. At Cortland, we have 60,000 units across the United States, and we're an investment and development and operations owner. And kind of from there, what I do is create that feedback loop necessary between all of our departments. We have an investment team, a design team, construction team. We manage our own material supply chain. We have our own IT department, operations and facilities, and there are a lot of things that go on where, our investment and development team are trying to make decisions early on in a project or early on in an acquisition. And what they really search for is that feedback loop of, okay, well, the decisions we made last year, how have those been affecting our communities, and how can we improve that? So we're constantly searching for ways to improve it. And as technology evolves and changes, it's kind of hard to keep up with it. You can't just write a set of standards and assume you're going to stick to it year over year over year. It is something that doesn't really exist in a vacuum.
Right.
So Duncan, from a technology standpoint, how does Cortland view technology? Is it something that helps make your communities more efficient? Is it a resident experience element? Is it something to input technology so you can offer higher rents? How do y'all view technology? And it could be all three.
Yeah, well, it's one of our touch points with our residents. I mean, we really try to focus on the resident experience. And it's, it's not just technology. It's not just one thing. A lot of it is that human interaction, which a lot of technologies tends to drive a little bit of a wedge between the human interaction, but it's something that is necessary. But it's not a replacement of what our leasing associates and site associates do on a daily basis. Really, when we have 60,000 units, that serves a lot of people who choose to call our communities home. And a lot of that is you call it home because it feels like home, and we want to make sure that feels like home for everyone.
So what are some of the latest technology enhancements in the multifamily industry that you're excited about?
Well, we've been pushing over to manage Wi-Fi a lot. One big piece of the community experience is the connectivity. That's really a lot of, as I joined Cortland and stepped into trying to implement all these different technologies, it all comes down to what is the connectivity at the site. That ends up being the first question I ask at every community. It's like, okay, where do we stand and where do we have to build from? Whether it is a business and operational connectivity or if it is the connectivity for the resident. So as you step through, it's, what is the cellular connectivity? What providers are we bringing in to provide internet and digital media? So with that, managed Wi-Fi is something that has been out on the market for a while now, almost 2 decades, but it's mostly been sitting in hospitality and student housing.
Right.
And it's really gaining ground in multifamily. Previously, residents really wanted, a way to deliver their digital media, and that was you have to bring in a traditional cable provider. But in the last few years, I mean, it's no secret most people have kind of cut the cord and switched over to a streaming platform. There's a little more choice there, a little more flexibility, and so with that, all our communities need to adapt to that and make sure that we are providing the most consistent, highest speed that they can get.
How about from an Internet of Things standpoint? What's the view on how the IoT elements are impacting multifamily?
Well, with the different IoT elements, I mean, I've been exploring. I split into 2 categories. You have building technology as well as smart home technology. So right. With the building technology, that relates more to just the operational network and what are we doing to provide a better experience to the residents from our end, and that's where it's implementing leak detectors, HVAC sensors, so that we can. It's basically step from maintenance to preventative maintenance to predictive maintenance, and so that we can really get ahead of any issues that the resident have been having. I mean, that's even more important in the current environment, because if we can get ahead of problems before they happen, then it makes it much less difficult when you need to enter a resident's unit and make them feel safe as well as our associates feel safe.
Gotcha.
The other piece of that is the residential IoT, where you're talking about an experience of as you come onto the community, you have a smart lock, a smart thermostat, the adaptability to put in smart lighting, a voice assistant, things like that. And for the most part, it's interesting because a lot of people kind of split up into factions. If you've got a voice assistant, some people are truly the Amazon version, some people are truly the Google version, some people are all about their Mac and it's Siri, and so you can attach all these smart devices to hundreds of different apps, and it is a bit of a mess, and it's still I think in its infancy, but I think the voice assistants really have changed things. It's kind of when you're talking about in-unit in-unit technology, and if I rent a two-bedroom or a one-bedroom, and I'm in there, am I going to reach for my phone, open up an app just to dim the lights? No, I want to just say, to whatever voice assistant I have, dim the lights or set the mood or turn on the TV, things like that. And so I think the voice assistant really kind of took hold in the last couple of years. But then you also have the reverse of that, where people say, I don't want a voice assistant in my apartment, and we need to be very aware of that because privacy is key as well. Right.
How about from a COVID-19 standpoint? Last few months, the properties and I guess the communities have had to deal with things they haven't had to experience in the past. But from a technology standpoint, any things jump out at you of how to embrace technology to be better prepared of dealing with COVID-19?
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of innovation that has accelerated. Probably it's all things that everybody's been working with, but it's definitely felt the need to kind of step on the gas on a few things. I mean, Cortland, we've been looking through kind of what's the best way to deliver an individual self-guided tour experience, and with that, it's not just a simple fix. It's okay, how do you get the prospects to be able to get to either amenities on the site, to a unit, but then how do you work through that experience? How do you then still have that human touch associated with it? So my piece of it, plugging in, got accelerated a little bit further, where it was what we need to do is start providing a piece of that experience, even though we're not fully online with everything. We were trying to bring it all as one piece, but it's as the pandemic happened, people still need to live places. People still have leases expiring. They're needing to move in, and no one really wants to move into a place sight unseen. And so it's how do we give that experience to them? So it's we kind of quickly launched a pilot to test out, okay, well, if someone can schedule a self-guided tour online after talking to a leasing associate, or if they show up, they can just on the fly schedule a self-guided tour where they can go see the model units. We can verify their ID, make sure everybody is safe who lives at the property and who works at the property. They can see a unit and then be contacted about, okay, well, how else can we help you in your prospect journey, that sort of thing. Other pieces of tech that I've seen start pushing are a lot of different ways to open up your amenities, because a lot of apartment communities had to close their amenities down because they're gathering spaces, and as we kind of figure out what's the best way forward during this pandemic to keep these spaces safe. Things were closed and we've kind of slowly reopened, and it's how do you then regulate, sanitize, keep everything safe for these amenities that residents have chosen to live at our community, to use these things. And everybody wants this pandemic to be over as soon as possible, and really get back to what is a conceivably normal existence, and being able to kind of go back and have a party, go to the pool, go to the fitness center, see the clubhouse, bring friends along. So I've been talking to a lot of people in the industry about, okay, well, as we look forward, can we figure out a way to sanitize these spaces rather than having our service team come through and sanitize on a regular schedule? Is there a way to do that? And looking into safe UV light, being able to install LED lights that basically turn on, sanitize the room, whether it be a fitness center or an amenity space. You can also use that to and attach it to your HVAC, so that as you're as your system is pushing air out into the room, you're actually filtering it and sanitizing it in a better way.
Mhm.
With that, as you layer in all these IoT devices, you can look into how do you monitor the amount of people in the room. So you can count, are there more than 10? Is this something that's a something we would allow, or is this something that, it's do we want to know, hey, people are again using the fitness center. Hey, people are using the clubhouse again, so we can know, how much interest is actually then regrowing in the amenities. There are also, other devices. You can install cameras that also count the number of people and can give you alerts if it's over a certain amount of a certain threshold that you set. We're not implementing any of these just yet, but I mean, these are things where I'm getting contacted by all these innovators who are trying to come up with, ways to use technology to kind of ease the facilities and operational needs.
Right. What's the toughest challenge in your job right now with technology changing so quickly? How do you, or what challenges do you struggle with, or are you trying to stay abreast of to deal with the always changing technologies?
Well, I mean, I've already kind of stepped on connectivity. That's always, again, the first one, but I'm not going to talk about that one. Other pieces are, there's always new tech coming out. There's always kind of a wave, and certain pieces stick, and then things are then refined, and you have more technology that comes out that is even better. So the challenge is really kind of deciding when to implement. You don't want to constantly wait for, well, there's going to be another update, there's going to be another software update, there's going to be a hardware update. That's really the things you want to stay away from, is the hardware update, because if the community goes and implements a certain set of locks or a certain wireless access point, and then not realizing that 6 months later that there's a hardware update and what you've just put in is going to be obsolete in 2 years. A lot of that is, you don't want to spend the capital. You want to put something in that's going to be have longevity to it. But a lot of that is sitting in front of the investment team. I try to explain, okay, if we put this in, we have to be aware that within 5 years, we're probably going to recapitalize that investment and have to swap out equipment. But with that, what we try to do is put the infrastructure in necessary to kind of be as flexible as possible, so that we know that it's really just an endpoint we're swapping out, rather than tearing walls out and trying to redo the entire infrastructure.
Gotcha. Well, that's the challenging part of the job. What about the fun part of the job? What do you enjoy most about what you do?
Oh, the fun part of the job is really being able to kind of see all this new technology, network with all these different vendors, providers, and kind of see what's out there, what's on the cutting edge, and see how we can implement that. I'll get contacted and say, okay, well, how does that apply? Work through the strategy of it, and is there a return on investment or an effect on our NOI? And can this really be something? It's really just analyzing that product for its business, and can we, is it solving a problem that we have, or is it just some fancy shiny piece of technology? And it's trying to decide what is just the shiny stuff, and what is the thing that it's really going to be a game changer. And then trying to figure out, okay, within Cortland, who do I need to then partner up with to then get this? Because it could be really the facilities team that would really use it, but part of the budget can't come out of our sustainability group, where I can get part of it funded through grants and rebates. If it's installing LED lighting or improving our energy efficiency, but it has multiple benefits across different departments. And so it's bringing them together and saying, okay, well, if we can make this happen, Sustainability will be affected, ops will be affected, facilities will be affected, and everybody together will have a benefit. Those are the fun things to do, and kind of get that aha moment. It's like, it's not just affecting one piece. And, if the magic is if then I can put it in front of my investment and development team, and they can see, the financial reason overall, rather than just, it's going to save us time doing this, or it's going to, if I put in for a marketing team, say, well, that's going to be definitely a benefit. The question is it going to help out our residents and the resident experience? It's hard to quantify that sort of benefit. But if I can run it down to quantifying a true financial benefit, that makes the job a lot easier.
And Duncan, too, so kind of going off of that and backtracking a little, I thought you said something interesting about being kind of aware of your residents. So one, of course, COVID-19, but just in the property tech space in general, technology seems to, you kind of have to be in front of it or looking for that next new thing. But then two, being respectful of maybe residents who are not super on board with the rapidity with which technology is advancing. So how do you, from a design perspective, kind of meet in the middle of knowing that, okay, technology is going to advance, so we have to stay in front of it, but then two, being respectful of those residents who maybe might give you a little bit of pushback? That's actually, one of the tougher things to decide, because we try to reach out to our residents and kind of see what do they need, what is their problem that we're trying to solve, or what can we bring to them. I mean, that's where connectivity, there aren't going to be a lot of people that say, well, what I need is a slower bandwidth. It's most people want the best bandwidth possible. I want to be connected, especially in a pandemic. Most people are working from home. Mm-hmm. That is exactly when they care about what their cellular signal is and what their Wi-Fi is going to do. And if they pick up that phone, because something's going on, they want that problem fixed fairly quickly. Right.
But I don't want to sidestep your question. Again, with implementations, a lot of it really gets down to the pieces that affect our operations team as well, rather than the extra pieces of a voice assistant. We don't install voice assistants because a lot of that is user specific and can be layered in. The idea is to be flexible enough so that the residents' technology choices can layer into the solution that we've put in place. So, it's like, you can't really tell somebody if they're going to be an Android user or an iOS user. I mean, they're going to make their own choice. And so that means we have to be able to use both. That sort of thing. And so it comes down to, okay, well, it's the resident experience of putting in a smart lock, and can that help our facilities team to be able to process service requests faster? Is it so that, we can free up the resident from needing to use a key, or give them the optionality of have a key, an app, and a card, whichever one you choose, just in case, a lot of people, as people are moved to being more comfortable with just having a key that's on their phone. I mean, I would liken it to back in the day when you just had a key for your car, and a lot of people resisted giving up that key, and then you got you had your key, then you had your key and a remote, and there was a push to, well, you can just go to a remote. And it's like, well, now you can just go to a card in your wallet, or it recognizes your phone. And there are a lot of, adoption of that. It takes a little bit, but, I'm pretty sure all cars out there, it's not just a key. You get in, now you're hitting a button.
Right.
On all these new cars. So it's reacting to that technology adoption, and you can't just jump all the way in. Right. It's making sure that you're flexible along the journey.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I mean, that's super interesting. So being adaptable on your end and just kind of trying to anticipate what your residents want or need. But then too, obviously having to be aware of the technologies that are coming and just being ahead of that. So it's, I guess, constantly towing that line or being in the middle and trying to please both sides.
Yeah. Yeah, and probably a lot of the vendors that reach out to me, they think they've got a fantastic product, and they might not enjoy the conversation with me because I really try to shoot them straight and say, this doesn't really affect me at all, or it's priced way too far out there. You're not really thinking about your entire business plan. And so, but yeah, I mean, I'll get a call, and they're used to talking to somebody who isn't as technologically advanced, saying, it's really just a sales, and then I'll start asking them tougher questions.
Right.
And it really tends to set them back a little bit. And then it's interesting. It then turns around and they start asking me a lot more questions to then realize, okay, maybe I do need to go back to the drawing board, and there are things I need to change about my product. Because you say, well, have you thought of this? And have you thought of this? Mm-hmm. And no, but that's a great idea. Let me go with that.
So you're helping them develop their own business plans then.
Well, I mean, it's for the greater good. I mean, it's if they've got a product that's 70% of the way there, and they could make some light tweaks, because a lot of the technology out there, multifamily is a little bit slower to adopt and adapt, mm-hmm. but a lot of the tech out there is set up for single family homes, say, and the single family homeowner is a completely different bucket that this technology would fit into. With multifamily, you have a dual owner. You have the actual property owner, which is Cortland, and so we have the pieces that we need to maintain, control, and keep up. But when a resident moves in, that apartment is theirs, and so there is a handoff of technology and responsibility where they're in control of their own air conditioning system. We don't control their temperatures. They're in control of that. We can give them guidance and say, you want to make sure you keep your humidity at this level and make sure you run it, but ultimately it's their choice. And so and that's where it's different in student housing. So it's a little easier to adapt. In student housing, everything's rolled in together. So you pay one fee for your internet, your utilities, all that. And so in that, the owner can control, your top end and lower end of your heating. They can control your internet speed, things like that. And it changes as you step into multifamily, and it makes it a little bit more difficult. Plus, you're also, it's not just you're moving one person in and they're going to be there for 10 years. You could potentially have somebody move in and they're going to move out in 2 years because they've hit a different milestone in their life, and they've had kids or they're moving. And the idea is to kind of keep them still enjoying Cortland, so that if they're relocating from one region to another, that they think, this Cortland property in Atlanta was fantastic to me. I want to go. I'm moving to Texas. What other Cortland properties are out there?
Yeah. So you kind of. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Trey.
No, I was just going to say it's in doing some research on Cortland, it's interesting to see just like looking at your leadership page where you see like a chief experience officer, and you've got a lot of, and frankly, your role, a lot of other companies don't have the scale to be able to think about things like that. So you guys at 60,000 units are big enough to be vertically integrated, and it's just neat to see the things that you're thinking about and decisions that you've made and kind of the direction that you're headed. So I think probably there's a lot of people watching what you guys do and learning from your experiences. So it's neat to see. We deal with a lot of other companies, a couple large ones, but probably many of them are mid-size. And so I think there's a lot of people that will be listening to this podcast and learning, from your experience, and again, trying to emulate some of your past successes. So in that regard, how do you, amongst your peers, how do y'all keep abreast of what's going on?
Amongst my peers within Cortland or outside of Cortland?
Outside of Cortland, in the industry.
Outside of Cortland, I mean, quite honestly, multifamily is fairly open. When it comes to broadband architecture at the communities, There's a lot of information sharing from Cortland to another multifamily. I mean, even though we're competitors, we're not really direct competitors. It's more of a there's an industry level of, well, let's continue to talk. I mean, what are you guys doing? You know, this is what we're doing, and there's a lot of sharing across the groups. But it's more kind of with Cortland, it was letting everybody in the group within the different departments know, hey, if someone reaches out to you and is trying to, you know, sell you on this piece of tech, you know, bounce the email over to me. I'll sit on a call with you, and you know, so because they're the experts in their department, but then I can help guide the technology to seeing what they need from it. Because a lot of different departments don't really know the questions to ask when you're asking about software. You know, well, is it integrated? How does it actually work in real life? You know, because a lot of it is developed, you know, in a bubble. And it's how do you then apply it? I mean, we have, again, with 60,000 units and over 180 communities, there's no one fix that fixes them all. So any piece has to be able to be flexible to fit in. But you know, there are conferences which don't exist anymore. You know, there a lot of the conferences I go to and talk to my industry peers. They're trying to adapt and go to online formats, and so we'll see how that goes. I'm excited. You know, that's where it's driving innovation and change. It's like a lot of people wouldn't even consider going to doing a convention that's solely online. I'm kind of excited to see what happens. You know, maybe it may be a total flop. Maybe that you know, you have people that register and then just don't go because they weren't really going for the presentations. It may be that they were going to network. And it's a lot harder. You know, what that forces people to do is just pick up the phone and reach out, or pick up the phone, or, you know, email and ask questions directly.
Yeah. Well, Duncan, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today. If someone wanted to learn more about you or learn more about Cortland, where might they do that? I
would refer everybody to our website, cortland.com. It's pretty simple. If you want to learn more about me, I'd probably find me on LinkedIn. It's fairly easy. There's Duncan Cannon. I'm in Atlanta and I work for Cortland.
Thank you all for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. To learn more about our guest and their company, check out the show notes for the relevant links. If you would like to learn more about us here at Symphony, of course, subscribe to our podcast on our YouTube channel. And don't forget to follow us on LinkedIn and Facebook at Symphony Technology Solutions, and on Instagram at Symphony Tech Solutions. Here at Symphony, our ultimate goal is to make harmonious music out of all the technological noise. And we hope today's episode helped in doing just that. See you next time.